I found this video quite difficult to make, and not for any overly emotional reasons or not because the editing was hard, but I think I was pushing the dramatic narrative, the idea that there is a storyline in this musical theatre production that we call Sleep Token, of a man called Vessel and a deity called Sleep. I think I was rather pushing that narrative too much onto this song. And then I watched it live and everything clicked. Or rather, everything clicked for me, at least, or I had a better understanding. Remember, everything that I'm saying today, my interpretation of Sleep Token songs, as ever, could be bollocks, could all be wank. But these interpretations are rather designed to sit alongside yours and everybody else's. As Vessel says, we want to sit beside it, not against it. That isn't why we love this band. We love this band because we are able to interpret all of these songs differently, and it's what we mean to us and our own internal journey. And that's where I think I was making this mistake, because I think this song is about internalization. It is about acceptance in oneself. And so we will get to the live version that rather changed things for me in a moment. But before we get there, I think we should talk about the song itself. So, The Way That You Were. The title of this song is powerful enough when thinking of it from a protagonist potentially speaking to an antagonist. The way that you were. Because if it was meant to be internalized, it would be called The Way That I Was, right? But in Sleep Token, nothing is ever that simple. The way that you were, the lyric is repeated 9 times in this song. It only has one discernible instrument, which is a church organ, and the rest, if you like, it's a song of swells, of peaks, of layering, and of both emotional layering and literal vocal musical layering. And also we must look at where it exists in the timeline, the discography of Sleep Token. You see, we've had EP1 and then EP2. Now, something we think bad happened in Nazareth in EP2, and we've bridged the gap with Jaws, which has a music video, which I'm going to link back in a few moments, which could be, and many of us do believe, is attributed to Nazareth rather than Jaws. But one must think from a perspective of a band that would only had 2 EPs out by this point, and indeed 2 singles. 'Tis best to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and with Jaws being really popular and then The Way That You Were, these 2 music videos kind of sit beside each other in a lot more ways than I first considered. So with the end of The Way That You Were, that leads us to Sleep Token's first album, Sundowning. The next song is The Night Does Not Belong to God. Now, I'm going to pause this pretty much straight away because the very first frame of this music video is important. So I think we should talk about the music, and then we'll talk about the live version, and then get into the lyrics. And hopefully we'll be able to dissect exactly what we get from released on October the 8th, 2018. This is Sleep Token, The Way That You Were. So, we've only got 2 notes into this, and already I've stopped it. But with good reason, my friends, because this is incredibly important, or at least in my opinion, these flowers are incredibly important. See, these are chrysanthemums, yellow chrysanthemums to be exact, and they have huge meaning because they are the flower of mourning, particularly in the East and in Europe. In America, chrysanthemums don't have exactly the same intention. I believe that they're much more a celebration flower, but chrysanthemums bloom in October and November. They come to life as the rest of the garden, if you like, dies off. And so they are associated with mourning. They're associated with the loss of life. Indeed, if you've been to a funeral recently, you will see that quite often white chrysanthemums will make up something that says, dearly beloved, or dad, or mum, or whatever people have got the flower arrangements to say. In France and some places in Eastern Europe in particular, it is very much associated with mourning, so much so that it's considered a little bit of a social faux pas to give somebody a yellow chrysanthemum, for example, if it isn't a period of mourning, or indeed associated with the loss of a loved one or grief. But chrysanthemums go much deeper than that. In fact, it rather stretches into other parts of the animal kingdom rather than just the botanical kingdom. You see, chrysanthemums are one of the best natural pest controls that we have in our garden. For example, ticks, ants, roaches don't like the smell. It has a smell that puts off a lot of pests and indeed is toxic to a lot of animals as well, which rather made me look back at the music video of Jaws/Nazareth. While the roach is sat on the white chrysanthemum, and indeed white roses at times as well, almost if the roach was a conduit to a bad voice, telling somebody to do something terrible, as we've theorized about in Nazareth. So when the roach is on the white chrysanthemum, indeed there were white roses in the previous music video as well, I've now started to reframe it as the roach putting itself through some own personal pain, because why would it sit on a flower that it dislikes so much? Far more than that, one of the most interesting things about chrysanthemums is that they are severely disliked by spiders. And I didn't even need to ring Clive for that one.
But could you please never call this number again?
We all know that in the story of Sleep Token, how often spiders are referred to. So it's interesting that this choice isn't just a flower of mourning. It is a flower that keeps away certain, what we consider in modern culture, negative insects. To have a spider in the house is often considered lucky if it's a money spider. But I would say the majority of people wouldn't like them to just be crawling all over the place. And so chrysanthemums are a way of stopping that from happening. But this was the discovery that kind of blew my mind a bit, because a lot of us are allergic to chrysanthemums as well. And if indeed you do have an allergic reaction, one of the key things that happens to you is photosensitivity. A much more increased chance of sunburn, an adverse reaction to daylight. Essentially, if you have an allergic reaction to chrysanthemums, you seek out the dark. This fucking band, man. So the idea of the rejection of daylight so that you can be in the dark. My goodness, that is so prevalent in so much of what is to come in Sleep Token, and indeed what has already been alluded to with the merging of vessel and sleep in a labyrinth bed, them coming together in the night and then in the day. Well, what happens then? Just the tremendous intricacy that has gone into all parts of this.
We are not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing like we would.
I'll come back to the lyrics later.
And you are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should.
These lyrics.
When you think I don't notice the way that you wear and act like you don't feel it, the way that you wear and you barely believe it, the way that you wear.
The mouth placement as well. This is amazing to see it up close.
And I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers lying blue against the floor. And you will no longer stand between collapsing walls wearing a smile like you can't bear it. Come on, tear off the bandage.
Wow.
The way that you were with pain is your language.
Yeah, the siren.
The way that you
Okay, so there is a huge amount to unpack here with the way that you were. Firstly, one of the most striking things about the music video, of course, is it's the same actress who seems to have been the protagonist in the Jaws/Nazareth music video that we've actually just left. So these two videos kind of run into one another. If you don't mind, I'm going to pull apart some of the musical themes first. So obviously, the first thing we know is that this is a church organ. We are in a church. The first thing that when we hear organ sounds is obviously worship, or indeed, for lots of us as we get a lot older, those sounds are what is playing as we enter into a funeral.
We are not young enough to know.
Right, firstly, fascinating that we can see Vessel's mouth so clearly, see his tongue so forward in his mouth, see his jaw slightly further forward. Often I talk about wolf jaw. Sometimes it's a correction for those who have sibilant S's. Indeed, I have to bring my teeth together because I have a splashy T and a splashy D and a splashy S. So if I want to speak the Queen's English, the heightened received pronunciation, I often bring my jaw forward in order so that my teeth come together. Again, each of us have genetic things. We have different muscularity. We have different makeups that it's rather like, first time I went to the gym properly and he said, well, so what do you want? And I was like, I want to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. And he went, you don't have his genetics. In many ways, as much as we often try and recreate the sound of other singers, it's never possible because we don't have the same genetics, and those do have a bearing on how our voices sound. But one of the first things I noticed on the first listen of this is his pronunciation of certain words, or indeed certain letters. We are not young enough to know, and the running together of a lot of vowels. Now, this was released in October 2018, and also just to play kind of devil's advocate to that as well, there is a lot of lazy, what I would consider MLE, Modern London English, leaning into running syllables together in this song as well, which, because it's Sleep Token, I can only presume is by design. But just learning the reasons why. There's always a why with this band.
And you are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should.
You can see the tongue battling against the jaw. It's incredible.
You think I don't notice the way that you wear and act like you don't feel it.
There's an example of it. The way that you were and act like I don't notice. The phrases are run together. It isn't the way that you were and act like I don't notice. They all run together.
And you barely believe it. The way that you were.
It's brilliant. There's not another voice like this at the moment.
And I am so ready to tear that knife from what once.
So we've got now, as it starts to come through, we have now the second voice coming in, the choral, the chorus, if you like. It would be called a Greek chorus. Yeah.
And I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers lying blue again.
Interesting that on the lyric, lying blue against the floor, we'll come back to the lyrics in a moment. We immediately see the broken up chrysanthemums. Why have they fallen? If this was a funeral, if this is the reason why they're in this church is to grieve something together, or indeed maybe they are not there at the same time at all. Indeed, this is the actress from Jaws, as we mentioned before, but there is personification going on here. There is some sort of connect or disconnect between the two people who are featured in this. But yet, why are the flowers already on the floor? Why have the flowers died? What has happened in order for this to happen?
It's the floor, and you will no longer stand between collapsing walls, wearing a smile like
And then we just get another, not an instrument so much, but we just get a tiny little bleed of static that comes in there. Just
walls wearing a smile like you can't bear it and tear off.
And also smile. The split we talk about often. Vessel as a vocalist is he's a jumper rather than a slider. He likes to jump between notes. He would prefer to do a riff or a run rather than do a fall off. A stepper, I think people often refer to him as. But as much as that may be an affectation, indeed, when he was writing the melody, the man behind the mask, mask, piano in his pants. Underpants for the Americans. When he actually sat down and wrote this at a piano for the first time, or an organ, or whatever it was, he decided that there was going to be melody choices here, that he was going to fall off, that he was going to riff at certain points. And what we get behind us then is that support, that choral support. It sounds rather like that if he was to take his place at the pulpit, at the front of the stage, that he has created in his own voice, and the multi-tracking, the layering that he has done there, his own choir behind him. But it's, I believe, a 5-part harmony once we get to the very end. Indeed, when we watch the live version, we will see it's the debut of a sparer, I think, in 2018 to come on, and they offer some support, but it still isn't exactly like this. Anyway, let's go back.
Collapsing walls wearing a smile like you can't bear it and tear off the bandage. The way that you were with pain is your language.
There's that implication of a siren again. It's going to get more extreme.
You showed me the damage. The way that you were.
Can you hear that George Lever has added a certain reverb or something in there, like a ping delay that's going, and it sounds like a siren in the distance. I find it really disconcerting whenever I listen to this, and it's only going to get a little bit more extreme in a moment. Right. Everybody, if you want to, you can fucking screen grab that. Let's work out what these numbers mean. I don't have the fucking time in the day. No, but seriously, everything in Sleep Token, we always presume is by... That's a beautiful shot, by the way. We always presume everything in Sleep Token is by design. So why 404? Why 830? By the way, if you're not a church-going person, these are the numbers of the hymns. So when the preacher, whomever preacher, is conducting the sermon, the service, they will say, we will now turn to hymn number, and you would look in your hymn book for hymn number, well, in this case, 404, 830, 346, 261, and 204. I just can't get over the fact that that's there, and it's very, very prominent. It is in the middle of the shot, pretty much. So is there some significance, or was it just left over from the Sunday, from when they booked this venue? Who knows? My apologies, I'm going to go back. We are just in the way that you were. Suppose here we're singing the same. The choir is singing the same melody. There's that fucking siren, man. Now it changes.
Well, how much did they hurt you? The way that you were. And how much did they break you?
Opens out so beautifully.
The way that you were. And how far did they take you? The way that you were.
Sorry, I don't want to keep going, but there's this beautiful little musical moment here where the organ suddenly goes up and it plays an octave up, and it pushes through in the mix, and it gives us that almost like Pink Floyd. It gives us that Like, do you know that moment when you're listening to something really powerful and there is a swell in the music? Musical theatre, of course, is so good for this. Shows like, Miss Saigon, for example, when you get that moment where the chorus come together. Parade by Jason Robert Brown is another example where they all come together for the old Red Hills of Home. I nearly went just thinking about it. That moment where we get that little push just over the top. The lights get a little bit brighter on stage. It's a wonderful theatrical convention that we use. But just here, ever so slightly, the organ leans into that upper octave, and it just makes it soar.
Well, how much did they hurt you? The way that you were, and how much did they break you? The way that you were.
The fizz. And this reverb. If you're listening to this on headphones or whatever, you will hear that there is a pan. It's not a reverb at all. It's a delay. Apologies. It's a panned delay. It is like a ping pong delay. It is bouncing across your ears just at the end there. I know it now. And it moves across just in the back. Such beautiful, subtle production. And then we sit back into the convention and the refrain, which is, "You will never be the same again. You." Now, I know a lot is said about Vessel's hands, you thirsty lot. However, when he does this at the very end, it is almost like a flower dying. That's what it looks like. It looks like, or indeed, if you want to go really depthy into this, is a fucking spider expiring. But his hand dies and it closes off, just like a flower would die at the end of the season. It's a very beautiful, poignant little close-off, I think, to the end of this. And then it drops, and the head goes down as well. And from a dramatic directorial perspective, that's the piece. Just the resolution, not the resolution, maybe the giving in. This is the way it is now. Now we're going to get to the lyrics in a moment, and obviously I love talking about lyrics, so I don't think I've suddenly just forgotten about all of that, because there's loads to unpack there. But before we do, I would like to go back to 3 days after this song was released, and it's only a phone footage. It's not amazing, and Vessel rather does at the end. Some of you may find this a little bit distressing, because distressing is probably a little bit heavy. He does rather wail at the end of this, and there is a particular moment in this live performance where not only do I go, oh, he's a fucking theatre kid, but also the emotion of music, the emotion of having support with you as well on stage. Let's go back to October 11th, 2018, only 3 days after The Way That You Were, the single, was released at St Pancras Old Church. I believe only one of the first headlining gigs that Sleep Token did, and if I remember correctly, they were supported by Exploring Birdsong. It is also one of the first appearances of Aspera, but I'll get to that in a moment. But after watching this, the quality is what it is, but after watching this, my perspective on the song rather changed, so I hope you enjoy it as well. So here we are, live from 2018. So that's the old member. I think they were called Five. Play on the organ. This lady is all in her feelings. Damn right, love. I know, one of the biggest bands on the planet right now, sold out US tours. Imagine having been there. But there's one thing that I really noticed from this performance that made me reframe, actually, that I think this is about a personal journey. I think this is about introspection. And I think that this is about a battle that we are having. If we're going to go back to Jungian psychology, I think this is maybe Vessel nodding to the shadow, to having to embrace that, to listen. We have to cut out some things in our lives sometimes. We have to embrace the new normal. So many of us went through that after 2020 and 2021, where the world rather changed for so many of us in terms of our lives, our social lives, our jobs. So in that respect, I think we're all versed in some way as to cutting something off, cutting somebody off, but also at times having to cut something of ourselves off as well that is truly painful in that moment, but you understand that it is necessary in order to grow, or in some cases just to survive. Arguably my favorite moment of this is when Aspera come on the stage. Now, in musical theatre, we have something called a sitz probe. A sitz probe is the first time after you've been in the rehearsal room and maybe you've been doing a full-scale musical production, but you've only been in there with a pianist. And then the sitz probe is where the band come in, or the orchestra, for the first time. And you better believe that you start pushing a whole lot more when you get that microphone in front of you and they play that song for the first time and you hear it in the original arrangement. Whoever arranged it, Jason Robert Bound, Stephen Schwartz, Lloyd Webber, whatever it was, when you do that for the first time with an orchestra or a band, it suddenly makes everything so much more emotional. Now, I understand, as best I can ascertain, and I am not really a Sleep Token historian, I've only been listening to them for a few months. I rather view it as a piece of theatre, and I like to analyse the music and the lyrics, and I'm learning all the time. Thank you to everybody on my Ko-fi, my Discord, who teach me all this stuff. But at a sitz probe, you hear how it's meant to sound. And I believe that the moment the Aspera come on stage here and they start offering this harmony in the background, you can hear all of a sudden the emotion in Vessel's voice changes. This is where we start to build. Oof. And yes, he does rather start wailing at the end. You can hear, the pain, the battle that is going on of the performance against the emotion. But how much did the use of the consonant, how much did they break you? You can hear him push on that kind of plosive break you. It changes, and I think, rather, it changes the dynamic once you start bringing in more voices. And gosh, we know from the Even in Arcadia tour, the US tour, how important I think Aspera are to the live. I will say this with my fucking chest. If I could listen to the Sleep Token back catalogue, every single one of those albums, with the addition of Aspera, but then they would become it would be the pomp of musical theatre. It would be like fucking curry to a pisshead for me. I would absolutely love to hear that, and I do often find myself now seeking out live versions, maybe when I'm driving in the car or whatever, rather than the recorded version, because I want to hear the dynamic differences. But it's not just the dynamics, it's the difference it has emotionally. You can hear how that man, once he has those voices coming, he hears the vision of what he wanted to create with this song, and how much as they break you. He really starts to push on those consonants, push on the intention, the emotional intention behind this. Just when I watched this, I think it made me understand it a whole lot more. But anyway, we must move on to the lyrics. So let's start at the top. And if you've never watched one of my breakdowns of Sleep Token before, my analyses or whatever, I like to sometimes, and sometimes it offers a little bit more of an emotional analysis, or from an English language perspective, or a English scholarly perspective. It can add a little bit of dynamic to it if we pull the lyrics out, rather than just the intonation of the way they are used in the melodic structure, into a monologue, or indeed a duologue if it's Vessel speaking to Sleep, or indeed there may be third parties and all sorts that we have to deal with in the future when these songs become intertwined in the lore. But let's just take it as it is for the moment. We are not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing like we would. And you are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. So we are not young enough. So we're too old to know how to sit and say nothing like we would. We are not young enough to know how to sit and say. So is the implication there that in the future we will sit and say nothing like we would, like we will in the future, or is it more like we would? But it isn't should, it's would. We are not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing, potentially, comma, like we would. And you are too tired to control. I'm so tired inside I could sleep through a landslide. You're too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. Now, I think we've all experienced this at times in our lives where our face has rather let us down. Some call it, resting bitch face? When you want to appear, or you want people to think that everything is fine, or maybe you don't. Maybe your face is just telling a story that you are too tired to control. You are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. And then again, there could be commas there between how you look, comma, like you feel, comma, like you should. But this idea that so much work has been done, something has been exhausting, that you can no longer project maybe what the persona wants to project. If we're going to go down to a psychological, more Jungian perspective, which I believe that all of Sleep Token is rooted in, the battle of the shadow and the eagle. The battle of the shadow and the ego to make the essential self. But the persona is the face we put on. It is the pleasing thing that we offer everybody else. But sometimes you're just too fucking tired. Sometimes you're just too exhausted to really give a fuck what your face is telling the world. And when you think, I don't notice the way that you were, and act like you don't feel it the way that you were, and you barely believe it the way that you were. Okay, let's break that down a little bit. And when you think, I don't notice, there is an argument here, I think, for as much as this is introspection from the man behind the mask, the man who wrote these songs, the man playing the character of Vessel in this fictional world of him being in love with the deity in Sleep Token. When you think, I don't notice the way that you were. Could this be the voice of Sleep talking to Vessel? Could this be, if you like, the antagonist talking back to the protagonist? The demon talking to the angel in our story, our hero having to concede. And also, I don't fully subscribe to that at all. I believe that so often in this rich, like, tapestry, this story, that Sleep isn't necessarily always the bad guy or the bad girl. That I think that often Sleep holds Vessel's hand, and I think we're going to get a little bit to that in a moment. So there is definitely conjecture here as to what perspective it could be from in terms of a law perspective. When you think, I don't notice the way that you were, and act like you don't feel it the way that you were, and you barely believe it the way that you were. Now, also, we could look at this as a post-trauma response. If indeed something terrible did happen in Nazareth, if Sleep did coax Vessel into doing something terrible to a partner, to a previous Vessel, to himself, that she, or he, indeed, if you're going to go back to the original source material of the interviews, where Sleep is referred to in the masculine sense, when you think, I don't notice the way that you were, I can totally imagine that this is Sleep, and act like you don't feel it. Almost like it is Sleep going, I put you through something terrible, but by the way, hi, I noticed it hurt. And this throws me a bit. And when you think, I don't notice the way that you were, and act like you don't feel it. Can we run those together to make that make more sense grammatically? And when you think, I don't notice, and act like you don't feel it, and you barely believe it, removing the way that you were. When you think, I don't notice, and act like you don't feel it. So when you act like you don't feel something, potentially, or whatever the trauma, which we are to believe that we're going to tear off some bandages in a second. And again, we need to come to the linguistic properties, if you like, behind the use of that word tear. When you think, I don't notice, and act like you don't feel it. There is an awareness here. And if indeed this is introspection or shadow work, then when you think, I don't notice, and act like you don't feel it, that is questioning oneself. That is the man questioning himself. You barely believe how you've got to this state, or rather, you barely believe who that person was. Now, at the end of Missing Limbs, I know it's a lot of people's a little bit of a curveball for a lot of people when he refers to him. The lyric, and it still makes my blood run thin to remember what you are to him. Now, I know a lot of people have gone, oh, him, who's this? Oh, it's an affair. Oh. I mean, really, who fucking knows? But I think that it is the man referring to his previous self to remember what you were to him. And this ties into that quite nicely, I believe. If this is indeed a kind of a journey of self-discovery, a journey of cutting things off, of leaving things behind the way that you were. But also, is that the way you had to be then? And do you not have to be that person now because you are stronger, you are more loved? Is there a way to spin this into a positive sense as well? And I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers lying blue against the floor. Now, obviously, I'm leaving out the refrain in the background there of "you will never be the same, you will never be the same." Okay? I am so ready. That's a really fucking powerful statement. I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers lying blue against the floor. This is now why I do often think, right, where's the voice coming from? If indeed this is lore heavy, I would think that this is the voice of Sleep. Remember, as we move on to later albums, there are times where Vessel, speaking from his perspective, in my opinion, it talks about, listen, if you find out what I've been doing, like, you're going to tear my fucking arms off because you're going to be annoyed at me. But actually, in those moments, and I'm not going to content warning this, I'm going to skirt around it, what Vessel, or what, again, the man behind the mask, the character, whomever it is, in the projection of this music, the things that he's doing are harmful to himself. Therefore, Sleep does offer a hand, or indeed the insinuation is that Sleep is there to protect as well as be worshipped, as well as to have their name spread as the law dictates. So if I may, imagine from Sleep's perspective, I am so ready. I'm fucking ready now. I saw what happened in Nazareth, where I talked about your pretty white jaws, and I realized what you're capable of. So I might be aware of what you are capable of doing to yourself as well. I'm so ready to tear that knife. Not to take it, not to gently do it. I'll fucking tear it out of your hands. Tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers. Before something changed. What once. Something changed in this story. Something like in the multiverse. I don't know if you want to look at it from that kind of perspective, that there was a universe where you would be lying amongst those chrysanthemum petals on the floor, and they would have been dead fingers lying blue against the floor. And they lie blue because nobody found you, because you were on your own. The blueness obviously comes from, I don't need to get into all of that stuff. I don't want it to get too heavy, but you understand, as the body turns blue, it is, there is, it's not necessarily, blueness isn't immediate. So, that would have insinuated in a way that maybe you were there for a period of time. But now you have me, and I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers lying blue against the floor. Not on the floor as well. I like that there's resistance. It is against the floor. I know it's only a very small, little nuance of lyrical change, but I think that's really quite beautiful. Anyway, moving on. And you will no longer stand between collapsing walls wearing a smile like you can't bear it anymore. Fucking Elvis. You will no longer. That is it's a command, isn't it? And you will no longer stand between collapsing walls. Because you have me. And if we could flip the perspectives for a moment, you could quite easily look at it as Vessel talking to the deity that they want to serve, they want to promote, they want to spread the gospel of, for want of a better term. That maybe when the gods cast Sleep down, the she, I'm just going to use she colloquially for the moment, maybe because they aren't so, well, we've had illusions that they are not as powerful as they used to be, and they need a band, literally a band of brothers, a band of 4 men, Vessel 1, 2, 3, and 4, to go on sold out tours around the world and spread the story of Sleep. And to what end, we will never know, because it's rather wrapped up in the lore itself. So you will no longer stand between collapsing walls. And now, if I may bring it right back to a human element and just just give the man his flowers for how fucking beautiful these lyrics are. You will no longer stand between collapsing walls wearing a smile like you can't bear it anymore. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been so spent, so done, that all you can do is smile? A lot of people, again, I'm not going on the more like manic route, if you like, first. But the idea that you're wearing a smile because you're just like, everything's on fire. I don't know what to do. I'm sure a great many of us who feel like emotional connections to this band, emotional connections to music, in particular music lyrics, poetry. The idea sometimes as well, if you were an empath, that you don't want everybody else to feel the same sadness that you do. So you paint a smile on. You put a mask on. Masking, of course, is a highly used thing in the non-neurotypical world, on the ASD spectrum as well. And simply for those of us who have imposter syndrome, who don't believe that the way that we feel is valid, and maybe not valid, important, and that nobody else would really be that interested. So you just, quote unquote, smile through the pain. But you will no longer stand between collapsing walls. But the idea of collapsing walls, we have had lyrics about houses, and very much in the modern sense, House Viridian and the Feathered Host. So there are houses at the moment, but there are numerous references to houses not being homes, to places not being lived in, to love not being embraced. And if you just let it fester, then it disappears. So those collapsing walls, well, you can rebuild those, but you will no longer stand between them. You will no longer be in a room of sorrow wearing a smile like you can't bear it anymore, because the implication is, I believe in this verse, that I am here now and I am here to help you. Again, the way that you were, it does come across as an incredibly sad song. There are a lot of incredibly emotional elements to this, but there's also a lot of positivity to glean from this too. You will no longer, I am so ready. I'm going to tear this. I'm going to save you. I'm going to help you. So if I am here to help you, come on, come out from underneath who you were. Tear off the bandage the way that you were, with pain as your language, the way that you were. Will you show me the damage the way that you were? Let's continue. Well, how much did they hurt you? And how much did they break you? And how far did they take you? Let's remove the way that you were for a moment and just read these 6 lines. Come on, tear off the bandage. With pain as your language, will you show me the damage? Or how much did they hurt you? And how much did they break you? And how far did they take you? Actually, there's a whole bunch of questions there, aren't there? Come on, tear off the bandage. Tear. I am so ready to tear that knife. Not to take it away, not to gently go, come on, reveal, come on, pull off. No, tear off the bandage. Come on, fucking show me something. Tear off the bandage. And with pain as your language, I don't care. We can use pain as a common language. Will you show me the damage? It feels like this is, again, from an introspective sense, from a self-discovery sense, this is the idea of taking the big step into the unknown, leaving the way that you were behind and showing me. And in relationships, when it comes to people who have had difficult, fragmented pasts, whether it be to levels of abuse that they've gone through, whether it be to things they may have inflicted on themselves, whether it be relationships that they have had with people previously who have hurt them, who have changed them, the way that you were. I understand that you were a different way before. But in order for me to embrace you completely, to love you completely, to be our essential selves, I want to see all the shit. Lay all the shit out. Tell me all the dark. Give me the shadow. Give me the night. Well, comma, how much did they hurt you? Question 1. And how much did they break you? Question 2. And how far did they take you? How much did they hurt you? Tell me. Tell me what they did to you. Tell me how much. Not just what they did, but how did it hurt? How much? How did it hurt you? What was the individual feeling that you felt? How much did they hurt you? How much did their actions hurt you truly? Tell me that. Pull all of the shit off, all of the facades. Take the mask off and tell me, how much did they hurt you? How much did they break you? And also, that's not how much did they try to break you. How much did they break you? What did they break? What inside you broke? Or what physically, emotionally, spiritually, what broke? Because they did break you. And who are they? The they here is very telling as well. How much did they break you? We've never really addressed that yet so far. Who are they? Because they could mean all manner of things in terms of relationships. We've spoken about Sleep Token being about potential religious trauma, family trauma, relationship trauma, about hurting oneself, about trying to come to terms with fame, how to come to terms with who you really are as a human being, battling the shadow, becoming your essential self. They could be all manner of different things. And how far did they take you? Now, the first time I heard this line, a lyric from, and I'm not a big fan of Phantom of the Opera, but past the point of no return. How far did they take you? The past the point of no return got stuck in my head because I thought, well, isn't that what they're actually asking here? How far did they take you? How much damage has been done? And can we bring you back? Or can we, if you have gone past the point of no return, or you feel like you have, or you feel like you're going to do something, and again, the implications are there. I'm not going to delve into this too deeply. But how far? How far did they take you? How far did they potentially push you? And what are the ramifications? Show me the damage. Let me see all of it. Show me the darkness. Because unless I see the darkness, again, possibly speaking from a sleep to vessel perspective, or indeed thinking about the journey of self-discovery through Jungian psychology, through shadow work, etc., from counseling, from therapy, I have to, whoever this person is, we have to see the damage. We have to embrace the darkness in order for us to get closer to the light. It's fucking brilliant, man. This is fucking brilliant. And also, one must balance in all of this. You will never be the same. No, never. You will never be the same. And then, this is important. I know it now. I am aware. Whoever is speaking in this voice is... you are never going to be the same again. I'm never going to be the same again. We are never going to be the same again. I know it now. Well, I know why I woke up here on the shoreline. So many times Vessel alludes to this in his lyrics, that he knows why. That actually he is self-aware, just like when he wrote the interludes. And again, you can watch the video on the interludes I did the other day. In the interludes, he wrote those. He wrote those being disparaging, being negative, being vulgar at times to himself from the perspective of the mask. Having this duologue, this conversation with this digital voice that the interludes had in 2023, where it was really harsh. The mask telling him, "You're fuck all without me. You'd be better to become me." So in the story, at this point, we are now, I know it now, self-awareness. I'll never be the same. Or rather, You will never be the same again, as written by the man behind the mask. Anyway, listen, I could waffle on for another hour, but I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. The next song we get to is going to be The Night Does Not Belong to God. We finally made it, folks. We made it to the beginning. Finally made it to Sundowning, and what a fucking journey it's been for context over these first 2 EPs, and indeed the singles in between. Jaws, which is such a tremendous song, and of course The Way That You Were. Now, all of this is only possible for me to be able to spend time doing this. I'm so grateful to everybody on screen right now, my Ko-fi members. Listen, YouTube's fucked, man. We can add all of the insights we like to these songs. We're still not going to make any money from it. And I suppose that's fine. I understand copyright. I've been in this business long enough. But the people on screen right now are my members over on Ko-fi. You can become a member if you'd like. You get exclusive videos. You get VODs of the Twitch streams. You get extra videos. You get access to the members-only Discord. It's just a tremendous group of far more educated people than me on both music, art, Sleep Token. Gosh, we discuss coding. There's all sorts of brilliant, weird, and wonderful stuff, and I'm very grateful to those of you, my mods on the Discord, and everybody who contributes and has helped me, learn so much about Sleep Token. Of course, if you do want to jump on Twitch as well, the thingy, you'll be here. Probably this very, very late to tell you this, but Saturday night is the final night of the Even in Arcadia US tour. Myself and Lauren are going to be streaming from 11 p.m. all the way till about 6 a.m. in the morning. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so all of the subs, gifted subs, bits, whatever we make during that is all going to breast cancer charities split around the world as well. So we'd like to cover, because I've got so many people from fucking everywhere that have just are into Sleep Token, and are into it as much as I am, which is lucky, really. So if you want to support me on Ko-fi, that'd be amazing. Again, you're free range humans. Do what the fuck you want. That's what I really want. Because it somehow led you here. And yeah, you can do likes and I don't like doing all that shit. Likes and subscribes and all that nonsense. Anyway, yes, I will see you for the next one. If I don't see you on the Twitch stream, I will see you next week as we finally take a dive into one of my favorite Sleep Token songs. The Night Does Not Belong to God, the opening of Sundowning. We made it, folks. So I'll see you all very soon. Thank you so much for watching.